Hello, Steve Persch here, Director of Technical Marketing at Pantheon. We're at Decoupled Days 2022 here in New York City. I'm standing here with Alexander, who just presented at the conference on ReScript, a way of bringing the benefits of typed scripting language to the front-end ecosystem. Could you give us a brief summary of why should front-end developers be thinking about typing their language?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things people may be familiar with is an error like cannot call method on undefined, or maybe you've ever created something where you've shown a number and customer said like, why is my cart total NaN? Like that doesn't sound like a number, and that's because it's not. And that's why you should care about types, because it'll make those kind of errors impossible, because it'll tell you that something isn't there, or that you're trying to add a string and a number together.
So I can see how those benefits would be valuable to nearly anyone building a website. How does a team balance the desire to get those benefits with perhaps the resistance that they might experience to a typed language? You know, so much of the benefits of JavaScript and these front-end languages is how easy it is to get off the ground, and I perceive that some of the friction around typed languages like TypeScript or ReScript is that there's more of an overhead to learning. It's how do teams get past that?
I think like the difficult answer is a little bit of experience. Like you'll find that once you actually learn one of those tools, that your ramp up time isn't going to be as long. The initial learning stage, like learning anything, is a bit longer. But also, like, have you ever built a prototype where you think you're not going to put it in production, and then someone comes along and is like, oh, that's a really cool feature. Let us launch it in production. Now you have to maintain it.
That has never. I can't imagine such a thing ever happening. No.
Like that, well, if that scenario does come up, it's a lot easier to keep it going when you already have your types in place rather than have to edit later. So it's basically you're moving the cost forward rather than trying to do it at the end, solving bug reports, running all over the place, trying to keep your customers happy.
Sounds good. And are there other topics you want to be talking about with the attendees here at Decoupled Days?
So for me, one of the reasons was that I wanted to share ReScript to a wider audience, which is why I came here. I'm also really a fan of GraphQL. If people want to talk about it, Drupal, and everyone may know JSON API is in core. I'm a little bit disappointed that GraphQL isn't there. I think there is a wider audience than just websites, like mobile applications, voice assistants, and we sometimes lose track of those a little bit. So yeah, those are some of the topics I'm happy to talk about with people.
And before we go, you know, I saw the title of your presentation. I thought, oh yeah, typing. This is a presentation about TypeScript. I was like, no, this is a presentation about ReScript. So why do I need to know those two proper nouns, TypeScript and ReScript? What do I need to be aware of between those two?
So one of the things I start out with, I'm happy if you use either, because I think just adding types is a big win already. For me, one of the things I encountered while using TypeScript is that types showed up everywhere. And that made it a little harder to work with. And it also, I found that JavaScript was never meant to have strict types. So you find that you're constantly trying to bend to JavaScript's ways. And I think ReScript offers an interesting alternative path where rather than trying to take JavaScript and add types, you take a strong type system and turn it into JavaScript. So everything feels a little lighter, and the ReScript compiler is excellent at inferring types. So you usually only define your types in one or two locations and then can forget about them, except when you make a mistake that the compiler helps you catch.
All right, and where should people go to find out more about ReScript?
So you can find out about ReScript at rescript-lang.org. And there's also forum.rescript-lang.org where the community talks about ReScript and answers any questions that people may have.
Great. Well, Alexander, thanks so much for chatting.